Hi guys, welcome back to Saving Salvage, welcome back to the channel. In today's video we're going to carry on with the RS4 strip down and hopefully get at least one head off in today's video and then assess, see if we can see any piston, conrod damage, etc. So we'll go from there. So as always guys, thank you very much for watching, and if you do enjoy these videos please do like and subscribe, and also head over to my Instagram account as well, which is saving_salvage. Right, let's crack on with today's video. So for those of you that watched the last video on removing the RS4 engine to strip down for damage, for water damage into the engine. So for those of you who haven't seen that video, click in the top right hand corner now and go back and watch that video. And now we are going to strip down this engine. So as you can see now, we can see it a bit more clearly. So there is actually a small timing chain cover on the back of this engine that just goes round the head. I'm hoping there is a timing. I've had a look at Google last night, I looked at some images, and there is one chain that goes sort of around the cams here, and it goes down about there and comes up. I'm hoping there's a tensioner in here somewhere so we can just loop that chain off and remove the head without having to remove all the gearbox, etc. So that's what we're going to do first. We're going to remove all these ancillaries and get that timing chain cover off. Well guys, as you can see, I've removed my timing chain cover from this head. I've removed the rocker cover again. I have actually now got a repair manual for this engine because it's just too precise to kind of guess your way through this. So I've got a proper manual which tells me how to take everything off properly and obviously reinstall properly. And we've failed at the first hurdle because I cannot get the engine to TDC. There is a special tool you need which you rotate the engine to TDC and you can screw it into both camshafts and that locks the camshafts in position. However, TDC is not part of my range that I have in the engine, so there's nothing I can do about it. So I'm unfortunately going to have to just put my nut gun in here and take those off to remove the timing chain from this side. So, and we'll have to reset, well if we can salvage this engine we'll have to reset all the heads up once we put it all back together. So got the VVTs off, they are placed carefully up. I've had to mark them the best I can because obviously I can't get this in TDC, so I have just put marks on the top of the camshafts as you can see there, and did the same with the units, so hopefully they'll go back in the right place. And frustratingly, the camshafts here, look, as you can see they have grooves in here, and that is so when you're in top dead center those grooves will line up nicely so you can get access to the head bolts. So that is what those grooves are for, but obviously we can't get to TDC, so therefore our grooves don't line up. Now this hasn't been an issue, I have managed to do all but one. So there was a little bung here, a little cover, and down there is that last remaining head bolt, and I've been getting away with the others because I can slightly go in at a very slight angle to get it, and obviously I can't do that angle on this one, so that's really annoying because I'm now going to have to remove the camshafts to get that bolt. So it's going to be a case of undoing all these bolts, and then the head splits again, look, as you can see here. So that section will come off and that houses our camshafts, and then we'll have to take the camshafts off. It's not a massive deal because the whole timing has to be set up again anyway, because obviously we are just flapping around basically, we're not held in, the camshafts aren't locked or anything, so it's no big deal. It's just another join we're gonna have to reseal. So whip that off. So all head bolts are undone. I've removed all ancillaries. I have actually the head has just fallen off a little bit, so hopefully now I'll just get these out of the way, put them over here, and we can take it up. So there we go, look, still a lot of water in there. Bit of water in that one as well. And that one just looks dirty. So let's turn the engine over a little bit, I think it should be okay, and just see what happens. I'm gonna push all our water out, look. Gloop, 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 gloop. Right. So, if anything, the pistons with no water in at all should be okay. So, sort of, this one. The rest, don't know at this stage. I mean, let's just get a torch. I mean, it's hard to really tell. It doesn't. Doesn't look cracked or anything. Pretty much flush with the head gasket, give or take a couple of mil. So now if we go round and do piston 3, pistons 3's TDC is a lot higher. A good 4 mil higher. So that's interesting. Very interesting. Right, so we've now stripped down the other side, and the bores look okay, to be honest. They don't look scratched or anything like that. They look okay. There was that slight issue with piston 3 protruding a good 3 or 4 mil further out the top of the block than piston 1. Don't know what that's about at the moment, so what we're going to do now is going to strip this side, and then we'll go from there and have a look what we find. Well guys, that is the right hand head now removed as well. Pretty similar as you've just seen. Again, pistons are okay, they look fine. There's just a bit of water in that one. The bores all look okay, there's no marks or anything like that. They look okay, they just got a covering of carbon on it, carbon deposits, etc. But they look fine. But again, I've just turned the crank over and we come to a stop again. So it looks like that piston may be bent, because as I'm trying to turn you can see it just flexing, whereas the others don't. So it might be that one, but obviously now what we've got to do is remove the sump to gain access to the bottom. So what we're going to have to do is remove the gearbox. Once we remove the gearbox, then we're going to have to lift the engine up and then start removing the sump and as little as possible to gain access to the bottom of the engine. Right guys, you'd have just seen that last bit of filming there. I paused it there. It's about 6 or 7 days later now since I filmed what you've just seen. I have just actually been really busy with work. Work has now picked up a little bit, so I haven't been able to get into the workshop this week. For those of you who don't know, YouTube isn't a full-time job at all. It is more of a hobby at the moment. Obviously I'm hoping one day it can be a full-time job, but in the meantime I do have to work still, so unfortunately I haven't been able to have time to work on the RS4. So we are back in the workshop today though. I have just spent 15 minutes or so familiarising myself with what I got up to. So you may not, I don't know yet because obviously I haven't edited it, but you may not have a lot going on in this video, but I thought it's best to probably give you guys an update than to leave you for a couple of weeks with a long video. So I thought it's better to probably break it down a little bit and at least give you something in the meantime. So I'm going to crack back on. I am going to hopefully let it flow so it doesn't look like there's been too much of a time gap. So let's get back onto the RS4. So as you can see, I have removed the engine and gearbox from the subframe. I don't know if I've mentioned it, but I made a schoolboy error, and basically the gearbox is bolted with 6 bolts to the flywheel internally inside the bell housing, and there's a little peephole around about there where you can basically turn the engine over to get access to the bolts to remove them, and you have to remove these bolts to be able to take the gearbox off. And in hindsight, I should have definitely done that with the engine in the car still, and so I could have been able to get under the car and easily remove those bolts, but alas I did not. So it was near on impossible for me to try and remove those bolts with the engine and gearbox still on the subframe, and obviously because I couldn't separate the gearbox, I've had to lift them off the subframe, and I've now managed to get access under here, look, to remove them. Luckily, because I was a bit nervous, because obviously you've got to rotate the engine to be able to remove the bolts, and I was worried there wasn't going to be enough engine rotation to get all the bolts out, but luckily I have managed to get all 6 out, so that's good. So I've rested the gearbox just nicely, just so it's not on the sump pan denting it or anything. It's just resting nicely on the mount just on the bottom there, so it's not even touching the ground down there either. It looks worse than it is. So now the main bolts are undone, so I'm just going to whip the other couple out, and hopefully we're going to get that gearbox off, and then we should have a nice suspended engine ready to dismantle. Right, sorry, my time lapse decided to stop recording then, but basically, as you can see, we've got our gearbox just come off. All I did was put a pallet under it, rest the gearbox and engine on the pallet nicely, undone the last bolt, and literally just pulled it off, sat it down on the pallet, and then just lifted the engine up in the air. So that is now the engine completely separated. So now what we can do, it's getting smaller and smaller, look, doesn't look very big anymore, does it? But now what we can do is, now we've got it in the air, we can remove the sump, which we're going to do next. Remove the sump, and then there is a second sump which I believe you will need to remove as well, which is this section here. So from the sump here up to here, and that is called a second sump for some reason, and we'll have to remove that as well, I believe, to gain access to the con rods, to be able to unbolt them and then push them through the top of the cylinder. So that is what we'll be doing next. However guys, that will be in the next video. The reason being is, as I mentioned earlier, I don't want to leave you guys waiting 8 or 9 days for a video, especially when I'm getting a little bit busy now with work. Obviously I'm coming here as much as I can, but that will be it for today's video. So as always guys, thank you very much for watching, and we've got some wave today. So we've got the heads off, we've separated the gearbox luckily from the engine, got the engine in the air, I'm pretty sure we have a few bent conrods. I don't know if I've shown you, but piston 1, the piston only comes out the top of the head, or top of the block, sorry, about 3 millimeters, whereas the others seem to come up a good 5 or 6. So that would possibly indicate that the conrod has bent, which is why it's not coming up as much. So pretty sure that will be our issue on maybe 1 to 3 conrods. The top of the pistons look okay, they don't look cracked. The bores all look absolutely fine from what I can see turning it over, but obviously we will fully inspect the bores and the pistons when we remove them. I have got a price from Audi, and you can't actually buy conrods separately, you have to buy them in 8. I don't really want to go aftermarket parts, if I'm honest. I'd rather a genuine parts rebuild if I'm going to do this rebuild. So I will have to buy 8 conrods. There's nothing I can do about it. However, I was thinking, peace of mind anyway. Yes, we might be able to see 2 are visibly bent. It doesn't mean that a couple of others have not very minusculely bent as well, which will cause obviously vibration and stress on the engine. And so if we only replace 2 and we found out that actually another 2 were very slightly bent but we didn't see them, I will be very pissed off. So I'd actually, peace of mind, I'd rather replace all 8. It makes sense to. So I think that is what the plan is. So hopefully in the next video, guys, we will strip the rest of the engine, we'll get the pistons out, we will inspect the bores, the pistons and the conrods, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we will be able to rebuild this engine. So as always, guys, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.